Phase 4 of SoD is here, and we can put fire against fire with our Fire Mage up against Ragnaros in the Molten Core. Let's see everything we need to know to hit the ground running. Looking first and foremost at the actual stat priority we're going to want to take in as a Fire Mage, we want to start off with getting 16% hit rating. This is because Molten Core bosses are 3 levels above us. Yes, it's a lot, but I'm going to show you some ways later in the video in how we can actually reduce this or reduce the need from our gear. We are a Fire Mage, of course, and therefore spell and fire damage is what we're mainly going to be wanting to increase our damage on our stats. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Then we have spell crit. The higher the crit chance, the more chance we have to do a critical strike. Of course, with some of the runes that we're taking, we're actually increasing the damage we do with our crits even further, meaning crit damage or crit chance is actually a really strong stat that we can take. After that, it's going to be intellect, increasing both our critical strike and also our mana pool. We don't need that much mana anymore at this kind of level, and therefore spell crit and fire and spell damage are going to be preferred. I just want to go back quickly to the actual spell and fire damage we are doing and explain a bit further how these work on a more granular level for those of you who may be interested. The way spell damage works is it actually works off how long the spell cast time is on your spell, meaning some spells will not actually get the full effect of it. What do I mean by that? Well, without having to include all the calculations for you, I've done them all already, it means that instant cast spells only see about 40 to 45% of the benefit from our spell power. And then AoE spells have an even greater penalty. However, something with a short cast time, like Frostbolt, we can actually see about an 80% benefit from it. But even longer cast time ones, for us in fire, it's pretty good, we're actually going to receive a 100% benefit, like on something like Fireball. I could go into a lot more detail on how this works, of course, but a lot of you probably don't care, and I think that's a bit of enough of an explanation. Now let's have a look at the talents. As you can imagine, most of them are going into the fire tree. Who would have thought? I won't be going over all of them in a granular detail like I have in prior phases, because honestly, not many of them are changing. The main fire tree was pretty much scoped out already at level 50. And if you are still leveling and are curious on what you need to be doing at each level, well, you can go back and watch my phase 1, 2 and 3 videos that are all on my channel. Just check out the playlists tab, they're all there for you. Some of the really important ones we are taking though is Ignite. As you can see here, your critical strikes from fire damage spells cause your target to burn for an additional 40% of damage, therefore making our crit even more important, like I previously stated. We get a whopping great big increase to our fire damage with the firepower talent. And we're going to get some really cool spells in here, like Pyroblast, hurling an immense fiery boulder, causing a large amount of fire damage and an additional amount over a period of time, and also Blast Wave, a flame of outward radiating flame, damaging all enemies caught within it for X amount of fire damage, and also dazing them. We're also increasing our crit chance with critical mass, and then that's leading us to Combustion, one of our major cooldowns as a Fire Mage. When activated, this spell causes each of your fire damage spell hits to increase your critical strike chance with fire damage spells by 10%. It does last until you've caused 3 crits with fire spells. After that, we are actually going into the Frost tree. This is going to make some more sense when we look at some of the runes we are using shortly. We're putting 3 out of 3 into Elemental Precision, reducing the chance that opponents can resist our frost and fire spells by 6%, and this can help towards our hit rating. Ice Shards increases the critical strike damage of our frost spells by 100%, and Piercing Ice increases the damage done by them by 6%. We've got Cold Snap on a 10-minute cooldown, reducing the cooldown of all our frost spells by 100%, and lastly Frost Channeling, reducing the mana cost of our frost spells by 15% and reducing the threat caused as well. Lastly, shoving 2 points into Arcane Focus, again reducing the chance that the opponent can resist our arcane spells. Now, if you're thinking, well hang on a minute, we're pretty much going to be only using fire spells. Well, we do have 2 runes, Frost Fire Bolt and Balefire Bolt, which will be using our Frost as well, and these can massively impact these effects that we've just seen in the talents. So then, let's actually have a look at the runes we're going through. Starting off on the head rune, we have Hot Streak. Anytime you score 2 non-periodic spell criticals in a row using Fireball, Frostfire Bolt or Balefire Bolt, etc., your next Pyroblast spell cast within 10 seconds will be instant cast and cost no mana. That is that Big Daddy Fire spell that we've got right here. Basically, whenever that procs, use it. It's instant and free. Burnout is fantastic for enabling even more critical strikes. Increases your spell critical strike chance with all spells by 15%. But your non-periodic spell crits now have an additional mana cost of 1%. Not too bad. Balefire Bolt unleashes a reality-distorting amount of raw magic at the target, doing chimeric damage, meaning it's all trees, Frostfire and Arcane. Each time you cast Balefire Bolt, the damage of the next one will be increased by 10%, and your spirit will be decreased by 10% for 30 seconds. That will stack up to 10 times. If your spirit reaches 0, you will immediately die. Basically, only use it 9 times, never 10. Living Bomb, that's a big bomb on the target. You're pretty aware of that, probably. Frostfire Bolt, again, another one that does frost and fire. Slowing their movement speed, doing Frostfire damage, and doing more damage over 9 seconds. It will be checked against their lower of their Frost and Fire resists, and again, it does count as Frost and Fire, of course. Icy Veins is a great cooldown, hastening your spellcasting, increasing spellcasting speed by 20% and reducing pushback. Spell Power increases the critical strike damage of your spells by 50%, massively increasing the damage we do from critical strikes. Overheat, Fire Blast will always deal a crit, can be cast while casting another spell, and is not affected by the global cooldown, but it does then have a cooldown of 15 seconds. Using Overheat and Hot Streak together can work really, really well for triggering those immediate instant free Pyroblasts, and I do recommend it. Lastly, we've got Fire Specialization and Arcane Specialization, basically massively increasing your chance to hit with those spells. Now we're going to look at how it all comes together into the rotation. So how then does this all come together into the actual rotation we will be using? Up top is the single target, and down below is the multi-target rotation. First things first, of course, keep your Arcane Intellect and things like those up before you go into battle. And you can preemptively use a Pyroblast when you are pulling, meaning as the tank's pulling, you can use your long cast time and get a big old Pyroblast out as they pull. Do be careful, obviously, not taking aggro when you're doing that. Then we're going to cast Scorch, and we're going to do that until we hit 5 stacks of improved Scorch, and then we're going to keep that buff rolling as it comes off. Basically, when we cast Scorch, it's going to put a fire vulnerability on our target, and that's what improved Scorch actually is. It increases the fire damage dealt to them by 3% each time, and it can stack, obviously here, up to 5 times. Then we're going to cast a Fire Blast whenever we land a non-periodic crit. That will then guarantee an instant free castable Pyroblast because of Hot Streak and Overheat, the 2 things that we're taking as runes. Then we can cast Living Bomb. Again, putting that on, it's ticking Fire Bomb on the target, explodes. We're going to reapply that and make sure it keeps up, unless they're about to die, because it would be worthless. Then use Combustion and Icy Veins, remember our 2 cooldowns, and any other cooldowns like potions, etc. at this point. Then we're going to use Balefire Bolt. Remember, we can use this 8 times. Once you get to 8, be like, all right, I can only use this 1 more time. If you get to 10, remember, it will actually kill you, legit. Cast something else once you hit 8 to 9 stacks, and then that will remove that. You can do it to 8 stacks if you're a bit like, oh, I'm going to forget. Do it to 9 for the perfect damage. 8 if you're like, oh, golly, you know, I don't want to, oops, because I'm not looking or concentrating. Apart from that, use Frostfire Bolt as a filler. It's as simple as that. On the AoE rotation, we want to put Living Bomb on as many targets as we possibly can, provided, of course, they will actually live long enough to explode. Otherwise, again, same reason as above with reapplying it, it'll be a waste of time. Use Living Flame on cooldown and use Arcane Explosion. You may have noticed we don't have Living Flame. You would take this instead of the Icy Veins rune, or I can't remember what slot this is, on the leg rune. So take out Icy Veins and go for Living Flame if you are in an AoE situation. Apart from that, it's really absolutely no different. And on the Arcane Explosion, don't forget we have got Arcane Focus here as well, meaning they are reducing the chance to resist our arcane spells. So that will help out a bit with that in AoE situations as well. And that, guys, is pretty much it for playing Fire Mage this phase. Now, If you do need any extra help, you can, of course, sign up to my Patreon. There's a link below. It's a massive way of supporting the channel. It's greatly appreciated. And I can also give you one-on-one support there in DMs on Patreon if you need any extra help with this or any other class this phase. I do also have LVI profiles and other behind-the-scenes videos, etc., and spreadsheets for WoW that will be a great help to you, so do make sure you check those out. Oh, and macros, and you know what, the list goes on. There's so many guides on there, it's really getting insane. If you are looking for other class guides, however, they are all on my channel. I have done every single spec this phase, and they are all there for you on this playlist.